You can't cancel people who are economically independent. I'm self-employed, so you can't cancel me. I don't need Sony Records. I don't need Universal. I don't need Facebook. I don't need Instagram. I'm not in need of anything white folks have, so I cannot be canceled.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Help us on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers, as it will help us to be able to make consistent and great content. Also, this interview was sponsored by Kill the Turkey 6. If you like conspiracy theories and myths about Black history being debunked, then this is the mixtape for you. Go check out Kill the Turkey 6 by Violent Content, available on all streaming platforms.
America is not a racist country.
Another road to take, another soul to take. Tim Scott claim is ridiculous. Who appoint these black congressmen and senators? They infected the Tuskegee with syphilis, gave the natives blankets and they passed on their sicknesses. The first people in America were Indian. You stole the land from people who was indigenous. White people not the first to inhibit it. Mansa Musa
And
was
now,
here years
let's
before
get into the interview with Dr. Umar Johnson.
This is VCBEATS live from Detroit, Michigan on thisis50.com. I'm here with one of the most esteemed, prolific, Prince of Pan-Africanism, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Umar Ben Johnson.
Glad to be here, Black Power.
Yes. How's Detroit been to you so far?
Detroit is good. I've been coming here for about 12 years, so
Okay.
I'm actually consider myself part of the community.
Okay.
So, this was where I thought originally the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy would be, because you guys had a lot of schools that were closed down. But unfortunately, the school district in the city really did not help me to find the schools that were in great condition that we could have purchased. So the list that they gave me included your dilapidated schools. So schools that didn't have a roof, didn't have a back on them, was flooded in the basement. And when I asked about the schools that were uninhabited but in better condition, they told me that they wasn't available for sale. And when I asked why, they wouldn't give me any explanation. Now, of course, I know why. They wanted to keep the good schools for the white folks who are taking over Detroit. So I know why. But I thought we would be in Detroit. So then we looked at the Catholic schools, and there were several of them that were in our budget. And when it was time to purchase the school, the realtor representing the Archdiocese of Detroit said they needed to see our curriculum. And I said, there's no need for you to see our curriculum. We're purchasing a piece of real estate. Exactly. What we're going to do with it is none of your concern, except that you know it's still going to be a school. And since I did not send them the curriculum, they refused to sell.
And that's kind of like very unfair, because they closed down 200 Detroit public schools. And none of the schools actually needed to be closed down because they were actually in good condition up until about 2008 when the gentrification really started kicking in.
Okay.
And it's also kind of crazy because we have 3 casinos in Detroit that are making record profits. And it was to my understanding that the casinos are always supposed to donate a portion of their proceeds to the school system. So why do we need a financial emergency manager because we're so in debt and we don't have funds to fund it? But meanwhile, in the suburbs, they're building new football stadiums and swimming pools, Olympic-sized swimming pools in the predominantly white, neighborhoods. So why is that, and why do you think they wanted to view your curriculum? Do you think there was an ulterior motive?
Well, I think that they were not going to sell anyway because of who I am. What I should have done was sent someone else in for me, which I'm learning that now. I got to operate through second and third parties, because at this stage of the game, even white folk know who Dr. Umar is. Right. So I've been told by some attorneys of friends of mine that it can't be you no more. You're at a point now, when they see Dr. Umar Johnson, they're not going to move forward. You have to send other people in. And so that's what I'm doing now. But I don't think they was going to sell to me regardless, even if I gave them the curriculum. I think they wanted the curriculum so they would have some insight into what we will be teaching and how. You see, now, with regard to the 200 schools that Detroit has closed, Philadelphia has dozens of them closed, Chicago has hundreds of them closed, and we also tried to get property in Chicago, but we're met with the same type of resistance. Because simply put, how can we gentrify black people if we allow him to open up a black school? People like to live near the schools that educate their children. So if we're trying to push black people out of Detroit, if we're trying to push black people out of Chicago, we can't do that by allowing an independent black school by a very popular personality in the black consciousness movement. It defeats the whole purpose of gentrification. We're pushing black folks out, but we're going to let him in. It doesn't work. You see, but with that being said, I think that the black community needs to be better organized so we can exert the pressure necessary in order to force the power structure to give us those schools. You understand? Because for a city as black as Detroit, Detroit is about 85% black. It is the blackest of the major cities in the country. I live in Philadelphia, and so we're the only top 10 city where the black population is approximately equal to the white population. But in Detroit, you guys clearly have the numerical majority. So when I was looking for that school in Detroit, I should have had no problem getting one because we wasn't looking for it for free. We were paying for it, and they still didn't want to come up off the school. And I just felt that the black power structure in Detroit should have forced the white power structure to come up off of some of them schools and let us purchase one. Now, the casinos are a very strategic and diabolical political scheme to intensify gentrification. What do I mean by that? It is very difficult for a lot of hopeless people to not entertain the thought that I could get rich overnight with a lucky draw, a lucky roll of the dice, a lucky pull of the slot machine, you see. So the reason you find casinos next to poverty is because people who are impoverished are so desperate to get out of poverty that they will gamble away their week salary. They will gamble away their title on their home. They will gamble away the note on their automobile in an attempt to make enough money to alleviate the stress and pain that comes with poverty. Because people often ask me, why do they put casinos next to impoverished neighborhoods? To intensify the gentrification. Because if you cannot control your gambling habit, sooner or later, you're going to lose your job and lose your house. So the casino is just another strategy that they use to get rid of black people.
Wow, I've never thought of it that way. And I always thought it was to attract other ethnicities and other groups and push us out, but I never thought
it serves both purposes.
Yeah, okay.
See, the way gentrification works, the strategy and the protocol is you do a casino, you do a Walmart, you do a movie theater, right? And you also do some new university buildings. And you also do a charter school. Okay, a lot of black people fail to recognize charter schools also play a role in gentrification. The strategy is real simple. Get a black person to front the white charter school movement. The black person gets all the parents involved. Nobody's going to ask what color the teachers are. So that charter school is going to be 90% white administration staff and faculty. Those white people who are working at this charter school in the ghetto are going to buy up all the properties, all the abandoned lots, all the available real estate. And within 10 years after they opened up the black charter school, there won't be no black people around to attend the charter school, so the charter school naturally evolves into a white charter school. One of the best ways to get rid of black people is to open up a charter school. Why? Because most people don't feel comfortable opposing educational expansion. So if I say this is a university doing this, if I say this charter school is coming in support of giving black children another alternative to learn, who's going to go against a new school for black kids? So the way you get into the ghetto and take it over is you use the charter school as your way in. Okay? Behold, what they say, the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
The charter school is the Trojan horse that you put in the ghetto because no black parent is going to oppose their white child's teacher living next door, the principal's around the corner, the science teacher's down the street. I love this school. All of my child's teachers live in our neighborhood. This is a good thing, but you don't know that they're only there as agents of gentrification.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but it always did have like a private entity.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of
Yes.
vibe to it.
Private entities are behind the charter school movement. And that's not to criminalize the charter school movement, because I know a lot of black people who have charter schools who have done great jobs with them. So I want to be clear about that. But that does not mean that the charter school movement itself was ever created to help black people. So right now, there's a black charter school in Chicago. They just left their charter, lost their charter. Their test scores are high, but they accuse the administration of financial mismanagement. Because whenever you want to shut down a black charter school, you either say the test scores are too low, you're mismanaging money, or you ain't got enough white folks who work there. And in this particular charter school in Chicago, most of the staff and faculty were black, as they should be, because the students are black. But under white racist philosophy, even if all your students are black, you're supposed to guarantee a certain number of white folks. But if you go to some of these white charter schools, you don't see no black people working in them, but nobody takes their charter away. So one of the reasons with my school, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, and thank God if all goes well, we would have renovated the school by the end of this year. So by New Year's Day, the Marcus Garvey Elementary School should be fully renovated. And we're in Wilmington, Delaware, 30 minutes from Philadelphia, right? A lot of people question, why did you go independent? Isn't it harder to do an independent school? No grants, no federal money, no COVID dollars, no nothing. Why did you do that? Because I'm a former charter school principal, and I'm a former charter school vice principal. And I see the hoops that they make black administrators go through in order to keep them charters. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to be doing that. See, the original movement for the black community was community control of the public school. We were never into the charter school thing because they weren't around yet. Charter schools pop up in 1990. In the 60s and 70s, we wanted community control. In other words, let us choose the principal. Let us choose the teachers. You follow me? School district, you can still control the operations, but we want to control the personnel and the programs. But when the charter school movement popped up in 1990s, some thirsty black people said, you know what? If we go with the charter schools and stop talking about community control, we can write ourselves into a budget and get paid. So the reason the community control movement died and the charter school movement took over is because greedy, thirsty black people saw in the charter school movement an opportunity to put themselves on a salary. We sold out to the dollar because you don't control charter schools. Charter schools are owned by the state. A charter school, by legal definition, is an alternative public school. You don't control it. We should have never gave up community control. So, in the absence of community control, understanding that the charter school movement is a scam, we need to go back to independent schools. Black money, black children, black teachers, black school. It's the only way to do it. And when we open up, we will be the first black independent school in the 21st century in this country, in a real building, real school, not no church, no basement, no house. Right. Real school will be the first ones in the 21st century with a real school that was built exclusively with black money, and will be the first school ever in American history, the funds for which were donated from Africans all over the world. Never before done.
Yeah, and before I segue into my next question, I seen some pictures on Twitter, and you began painting.
Yes, sir.
So the renovations
are just about done. Our electricians are waiting for the inspection. Our plumbers are waiting for one piece that they need for the plumbing. Our HVAC, the air is on, the heat is on. We just need controls. We passed all the other things. Like I said, by New Year's Day, the building should be ready. And if it is, we plan to have a grand opening for the community in February. Okay, and we may start with the children this August, or we may wait a year until next August. But right now, we are on the victory lap, and we can see the finish line.
If people want to contribute to helping the renovation and the opening of the school, where can they see?
They can go to my website, drumarjohnson.com. That's DRUMAR Johnson.com. The information is there. They can get on their Cash App, $FDMG School on the Cash App. Please make sure you got the right one, because there's a lot of fake ones up there. You want $FDMG School. When you put that in, the word FDMG Academy will come up. But it's $FDMG School. On PayPal, it's paypal.me/FDMG Academy. That's paypal.me/FDMG Academy. And we are a tax-exempt organization, so they can claim their donations on their returns. Okay. And if they want to teach at the school, email your resume to fdmgresumes@gmail. fdmgresumes with an S at Gmail. We ask that you include a photo in a cover letter. Who are you? And why do you want to work at this academy?
Yep, so I'm going to Teach for America and come back home to the black community.
And be careful with Teach for America, because Teach for America is the Ku Klux Klan of education. Because what Teach for America does is they enter into contracts with predominantly black public schools, and they take all of the available slots, fill them with uncredentialed, uncertified white folks. And so now, you are a 20-year math teacher, science teacher. You come back to Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, Florida, and you say, this is my neighborhood. Yeah. I want to be a science teacher in my neighborhood. I'm certified, I'm licensed, I got my degree, I got 20 years in. I want to teach in the schools where I grew up. You know what the principal going to tell you, the school district? Unfortunately, we can't give you the job because we signed a contract with Teach for America where they have exclusive control over who is going to occupy the available teaching spots in our schools. You see this? Now, the person teaching math don't have a math degree, is not an educator, don't have a license. They're coming over from Wall Street, they're coming over from law, they're coming over from realty, they're coming over from some other profession, and the only reason why they're there is they need to pay their bills in the suburbs.
Yeah, and I've seen that. The
Yeah.
bar set real
So
low.
you got all these black teachers who are certified, can't get a job because Teach for America bought all the teaching spots from the school district. They are the KKK of education.
Wow, that's insane how you could.
And then they talking about low test scores for black children, low achieving black children. Well, what do you expect them to be when the classrooms are filled with white folks who don't care about the kids, are not credentialed, don't have the degrees, don't have the certification? Very few teachers in a predominantly black public school are highly qualified. Very few. Most of them are leftovers who couldn't get a job in a white suburb. Or they're in the ghetto to teach so they can get their student loans paid off by the White House.
Yep.
And after they get their student loans paid off by the White House, after 3 to 5 years, they disappear into the suburbs. This is why you'll see a good white teacher, and then after 5 years, you don't see them no more. And you're like, what happened to that good white teacher? They wasn't here because they cared about black kids. They was here to get their student loans paid off, and after they got them paid off, they graduated to the suburbs.
Wow. That's crazy, man. Like, just come in, take from the community, and dip out.
Oh, everybody exploiting black folks. Everybody exploiting black folks. Right now, while I was driving over here, everybody's hitting me up. I got like 100 text messages. People want my opinion on the Deion Sanders situation. Allegedly, because I haven't seen a news report, Deion is about to leave HBCU Jackson State in Mississippi to go work at University of Colorado or Colorado State. And he's taking his son with him, who's the quarterback. Allegedly, because I haven't seen this. So people are saying, was this a bad move? Now, on the surface, if appearances are reality, Deion Sanders is wrong. You have no business going to an HBCU, having our people endear themselves to you because it looks like you want to elevate the quality of HBCUs and their football teams using your reputation as a celebrity standout, one of the greatest football players of all time, which I thought was a movement that would get other black retired ex-NFL greats to coach at HBCUs. And so collectively, you're raising the quality of the HBCU. You're making them more marketable, and you're attracting better high school athletes to the HBCU, which will allow these schools to charge more money for their football games and basketball games to offset the deficits that a lot of HBCUs are struggling from financially. So I thought Deion Sanders was a part of a movement to revolutionize the athletic programs and thereby the finances of the HBCU. But if Deion Sanders leaves Jackson State for Colorado, which only has 1.6% black student population, and take your son with you, if that's what this is about, then Deion Sanders may have to go down as one of the greatest traitors in black America because you are abandoning a movement to reinvent the HBCU, to bring them the money that they so desperately needed, and now you're going to abandon them and go to a white school, which begs the question, did Deion Sanders only come to Jackson State so he could improve his skills as a coach to only get recruited by a white college? In other words, did you use us? Did Deion Sanders use the black community and use the HBCU legacy just as a springboard to get hired at a white university? And if that's the case, if he only went to Jackson State to give his football playing son the coverage and attention that he needed to expand his career, then Deion Sanders is guilty of treason against the black community.
Okay, I kind of want to segue a little bit. I just got two more questions for you. So right now, perhaps to me, a greater enemy almost than racism seems to be fascism.
Okay.
And it's kind of like people like yourself, people like Kanye West, people like Alex Jones, when you guys speak truth, and that's not to say everything that comes out is true, but when you guys speak truth, they'll try to put a label on you: xenophobic, homophobic, white supremacist, and those are very real issues. But it seems that they're all like arbitrary, like it's like who they want to single out versus having everybody filtered. Because I noticed the people at the top who's really creating those systems, they never get canceled. It's only the people that they select. Why do you think that is going on? Why do you think that they're able to do this, especially with our First, Second, and Third Amendment rights? Why are they so easily able to deplatform? And now it's even they can cancel your Uber, your DoorDash, your Lyft. It's like ridiculous. Like it's almost like some 1984 kind of stuff.
Okay.
What's your opinion on that?
Well,
do you feel
firstly,
like they're trying to cancel you.
Well, firstly, you can't cancel people who are economically independent. I'm self-employed, so you can't cancel me. I don't need Sony Records. I don't need Universal. I don't need Facebook. I don't need Instagram. I'm not in need of anything white folks have, so I cannot be canceled, right? That's number one. And that's also the difficulty with somebody like a Kanye. He's so financially independent, he can't be canceled. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't mention my name with Alex Jones because he is a white supremacist. And I don't even know if I would mention my name with Kanye, in that I don't agree with everything Kanye does either. You understand? But I appreciate Kanye because he's the first black billionaire we have had since Michael Jackson to publicly expose and call out the untouchable community for their financial exploitation of black entertainers and athletes. I mean, the untouchables represent 40% of the coaches of the NBA. They were the former commissioner and the current commissioner of the NBA. They have controlled hip-hop music since its inception, and even Russell Simmons admitted to that, although he presented it a different way. Russell said that had it not been for the untouchable community, hip-hop may have never gotten off the ground because they provided the seed money. What Russell left out is the reason they provided the seed money is they saw a financial payday in hip-hop, and that's why they did that. They didn't do it out of the love of their hearts, because if they did, every musician who is signed to a member of the untouchable community will own their own masters, and we know that's not the case. So the untouchable community has been exploiting black artists, especially since the 1970s, which was the birth of the hip-hop community. And so I appreciate Kanye coming out and telling the truth, that as much as they talk about how people have come against their community, they have come against ours. For example, who financed a great share of the slave ships that brought Africans to America? Who owned the insurance companies that financed our bodies as human cargo? Okay, the Secretary of War for the Confederacy was a member of the untouchable community and a very large slave-owning person. You understand me? So when people talk about being anti-this and being anti-that, sometimes we need to turn the camera on the accuser and say, well, what about your record of oppression and dehumanization against other people? Black people did not participate in your Holocaust, but you participated in ours, and we can prove it. You see what I'm saying? So I just think we as black men have to be conscious that right now there is a literal campaign against First Amendment rights for heterosexual black males that seeks to bully us into remaining silent about the things that matter. Because this, what they're doing with Kanye, what they've done with Kyrie, they are testing heterosexual black males with loss of job, loss of money, loss of reputation, loss of opportunity. Because what America wants to do, and it ain't just the untouchables, it's the entire white supremacist power structure. They want to see if they can intimidate black men into keeping their mouths shut about the things that happen to black people. And if they succeed, if we as black men give up our right to speak truth to power, they will be able to do anything they want against black people. We must stay vocal. We need to be careful how we speak. Because as you know, one of the jobs of American mainstream media as a branch of white supremacy is to misrepresent the genuine opinion of black men. So the other day, clickbait, the other day Kanye was on that interview with Alex Jones. He said some things I don't think Kanye should have said. One of the things I try to do, whether I'm being interviewed with you, Breakfast Club, whoever show I'm on, I try to control my narrative by being careful with what I say. I think Kyrie did a good job of controlling his narrative. Yeah. Kanye is not doing a good job of controlling his narrative. He's speaking on things that don't need to be spoke on, and he's speaking on them in a way that's giving the media the fuel they need to bury and destroy and crucify his reputation. Yeah. He needs to be careful.
It's almost impulsive, kind of like.
Yes, be strategic.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can recommend that Kanye does, Kanye needs to spend all day watching Malcolm X interviews. Because I believe El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, may have been our greatest media assassin. Malcolm would take anything the media gave him, flip it, and use it against the media. Kanye needs to study Malcolm X right now, because if Kanye is going to continue to go down this road, and I appreciate the road, because Kanye said, you cancel my $1 billion contract, I'm still not apologizing for nothing I'm said. Right. I'm still not going to repudiate my opinion. That is powerful. That is alpha male behavior. But we need Kanye to be more articulate in his position so his words can't be used against him. Kanye needs to study Malcolm X.
Okay. And this is my last question. It's going to be kind of...
You got a few more if you do. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. And, okay, so I do music as well. And there was a senator, I believe out of Carolina, his name is Tim Scott. And he made this speech where he said...
Republican.
He's a Republican, yes. And he made this speech where he said America's
And I think he's a snow bunny, too. He got a white wife, I think.
I'm not sure, but yeah, that's... The line is in the sand, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, he said America is not a racist country. And then he made the argument, which is kind of like an extreme representation of what we're really fighting for, whereas that white people should experience guilt and feel bad for what they do and walk around somber. That's not what we're asking for. We're just asking for systemic change in the policies and practices to make things fair for black people and for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade, Jim Crow, etc. And I believe a lot of people say this because since there is no obvious Jim Crow laws or constitutional things that they can say, oh, racism doesn't exist, but it's very subvert, covert. So that's the first part. The second part is, you know, a lot of black Americans, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. And there's been information to come out that say, hey, Christopher Columbus didn't really discover America. He actually came here and enslaved people. They killed off a lot of the Native Americans. In Christopher Columbus' journal, there was an excerpt that said when he got here, he seen dark-skinned people with gold-tipped spears trading with the natives before he got here. And I vividly remember being in school having to fill in the blank. Who's discovered America? Christopher Columbus. And I had to write that, and I was indoctrinated. That's crazy to me, man. So I just want you to
couple of thoughts
on those.
You're absolutely right. Columbus actually never came to America. Columbus came to islands off the coast of America. So he came to Turks and Caicos. He'd been to a couple of other islands. Vespucci was the first European to come to American soil. Columbus never touched the United States. Okay, you're absolutely right. In the 3 voyages I believe he had, he spoke of basically African people that he saw in the Caribbean islands. Not the so-called Native Americans, but African people. He described their dark skin and their nappy hair. Native Americans don't have nappy hair. But here's what a lot of people don't know. Christopher Columbus was in what is now considered Ghana. He came to Africa before he set sail for the so-called New World. It was nothing new about it because we had already been coming to and from the Western Hemisphere for millennia. There was nothing new about it. He stayed at the site of one of the slave dungeons in Ghana. And when you go to either Elmina Castle Dungeon or Cape Coast Castle Dungeon in Ghana, I forget which one it was, Columbus spent a week there. And according to the history, he was given maps that showed him the voyages of the sea. and how there were three main currents that would take you from Europe or Africa over to the Americas. There was one current that take you straight across from West Africa to the east coast of the United States, or what is now the United States. There was another current that would take you to Central America and South America to Brazil. And there was still yet a third current that would take you from West Africa or Europe down to the Caribbean. All you had to do was catch that current in the water, and it took you where you needed to go. So Columbus knew how to get here because our ancestors taught him. So why then do white people still celebrate Columbus Day? I'll tell you why. The reason Columbus must be celebrated by white people, whether he discovered America or not, because he is the father of the expansion of European imperialism into the Western Hemisphere. Without Columbus, you don't get the wholesale murder of Native Americans. Without Columbus, you don't get the mass enslavement of African people, the greatest unnatural disaster in human history. You don't get that without Columbus. Without Columbus, the white man never takes over this planet. And so as far as they are concerned, he is the father of the discovery of America because he basically gave them the ability to discover the world and claim it for themselves. When you look at the story of Christopher Columbus, you have in that story every aspect of white psychology: colonization, capitalism, imperialism, genocide, manipulation. Everything that Columbus did represents the political aspects of European thought and behavior. So for them, Columbus is a god because Columbus is the forerunner of global white supremacy, and without him, there is no white supremacy. So they will always celebrate Columbus. My second point, when you mentioned Tim Scott, and he's not the only one. Kamala Harris, the vice president, she also said America was not racist. Let us go back to plantation psychology. Rule 101 on a slave plantation is that the house Negro's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. Kamala Harris's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. She has a white husband. Tim Scott's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. I believe he has a white wife. You understand me? And they're not alone. You have your Shaquille O'Neals. You have your Charles Barkleys. You have your Stephen A. Smiths. You have your Candace Owens. You have your Supreme Court Clarence Thomas. You always have a handful of Negropeans who are willing to do the bidding of the power structure so as to improve their relationship to it. But here's what they need to understand. White supremacy doesn't put black people into boxes. And what I mean by that, genocide is the elimination of an entire people. Not just the poor ones, not just the dark-skinned ones, not just the enslaved ones. Genocide is the removal of all African people. So that means after they're done using Shaquille O'Neal, after they're done using Charles Barkley, after they're done using Kamala Harris and Tim Scott, Stephen A. Smith, Candace Owens, they have to be exterminated as well. Because as long as there's any African in America, you risk your population being turned black in 50 years. See, understand something. One of the reasons the black man and black woman are so hated in this world is because we're the only people on earth who can reproduce ourselves within any other people. Yeah. If I lay with a Latino, an Arab, an East Indian, a Native American, a European Jew, an Anglo-Saxon female, she's producing a black child. No matter what man a black woman lays with, she produces a black baby. No other group can do that. And the European in particular can only reproduce himself in his own woman. If the white man wants a white child, he can only copulate with the white woman because his genetic power is so weak that he has to stay within his community in order to reproduce himself. And that's why the gun, as the late great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, rest in eternal peace, spoke of in her ISIS Papers book that everybody should read. The gun is the white man's equivalent to your penis. The black man's penis can change the color of an entire race in 50 years. White man can't do that, so he uses the gun for his genocide. We do not have to exterminate a people to eliminate a people. We can reproduce them out of existence. He has to exterminate them out of existence. And that's why when you look at lynchings in America, most black men hanged from trees were mostly castrated. They hung Jews. They didn't castrate them. They hung Irish. They didn't castrate them. They hung Chinese. They didn't castrate them. So why is it 99% of the time when a black man was hanged, he was castrated? Because your penis represents the eternal envy of the white man. We get it wrong. Brothers in the hood think the white man is envious of your physical size, of your genitalia. That has nothing to do with it. He doesn't envy the genitalia because not every black man is blessed with a large genitalia. What he envies is your reproductive power, your ability to go anywhere in the world and create a black nation no matter what the color of the woman. We are the chosen people. Being chosen has nothing to do with being a Muslim, a Christian, or a Hebrew. Being chosen is being a member of the original family that God put down on earth for the first time in the Nile Valley civilization of Africa. If you are amongst that family, you are chosen. Everybody knows who we are. They know that we're the people who built them pyramids. Right. They know we're the people who made this country. They know we're the people who invented the cell phone, the internet, the helicopter, the stoplight, the gas mask, the self-lubricating engine. They know who we are. The problem is we forgot. And one of the reasons we forgot is we allowed the white power structure to desegregate our children into their public schools. Ever since 1954, when the Supreme Court overturned Brown versus Board, they've been pushing black kids into white public schools and predominantly white universities, not to give us a better opportunity, but to kill the intellectual genius of the black child. Remember, most of our inventions were created before we sat next to white children. We were creating things white kids were not even thinking about. So they had to kill that, and the best way to kill that was to desegregate the schools. And look what we've been doing ever since desegregation. Basketballs, footballs, gangster rap, and white girls.
And that's kind of where I want to go to next with the gangster rap. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I see that the media, it used to be just kind of like, okay, that's a little bit negative, but there's other vibrations. You had Souls of Blackness, and, you know, different positive conscious rap in the 90s. But now it seems like the entire algorithm of hip-hop across all platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's the radio, whether if it's streaming platforms, it's all about murder. It's not even about selling drugs no more. That was dangerous, but it's just about murder. How many people can you kill for no reason? Let's put this group against this group. Why is the music only kind of one genre, so to speak, of gangster rap or drill rap?
Gotcha.
Why is it missing, and what can we do to bring that balance back now that we have independent platforms where I could just kind of upload my own content? Why do you think that is?
Gangster rap is the soundtrack of mass incarceration. It's the soundtrack of mass incarceration. The white power structure, particularly the untouchable power structure that controls gangster rap, deliberately redirected its aim in order to have black children indoctrinated with the kill, shoot, sell dope, sexual exploitation of black girls mentality in order to reinforce the European narrative that black men are only good for sex and dope. You understand? And unfortunately, we are playing into this because whereas the white man is motivated by power, the black man is motivated by money. We have two totally separate agendas. As I spoke to you earlier, I said the Roman Catholic schools in Detroit wouldn't sell me a school. Those schools are still for sale 6 years later because they are about power, not money. Black people are motivated by money. That's why we don't have anything. We need power. You understand? And so, unfortunately, black men are going to go down in history, and gangster rappers in particular are going to go down in history as being the only human population in the history of the world to participate in the extermination of their own public image. No other group in history has participated in the eradication of a positive image of themselves in major mainstream media. But we're doing that. And nobody's holding the gangster rappers accountable because they have money. Everybody in the black community is motivated by money. We're not motivated by loyalty. We're not motivated by integrity. We're not motivated by legacy. We're motivated by money. I'll give you something else. The other day, California approved a reparations bill for black people. And according to what I read, they're going to give every black person in California approximately $224,000 as restitution for slavery. Now, California was not a slave-owning state, but for the support of the slave enterprise, they're going to pay reparations. There's some black people who think that's a good thing. It's a total setup and a scam. Why would you allow somebody to give you $224,000 for 500 years of abuse, exploitation, dehumanization? Why would you allow that? California has one of the highest qualities of life in America. You probably can't even buy a house with $224,000 in California. You understand? And even in other places, it might be a small house, maybe a car. So you're telling me for the hell that my ancestors went through building this country, I'm going to let you give me $224,000 for that? Now, here's the trick. They're giving that money to black people so we can serve as the conduit for the recycling of that reparations into white businesses. Because what are we going to do with that money?
Exactly.
We're going to spend it, which is why I believe the whole reparations narrative as it is now articulated is a scam and a sham.
Yes.
Because if you are arguing or demanding a cash payout from the government for your enslavement and you don't have any institutions or infrastructure in which you can trap that black dollar, that money automatically goes to the Arabs. It automatically goes to the Chinese, the Korean hair care. It goes to the Jewish-owned establishments. We don't have no institutions to trap the black dollar. The black dollar circulates less than one time. So if you give me reparations, no matter how much, if the black dollar only circulates one time, that means in 24 hours, all that money is gone. It's a setup. We should not be looking for cash payments for reparations. We should be looking for land. We should be looking for wealth. We should be looking for control of natural resources. We should be looking for assets. We should be looking for a return of all black music. We should be looking for a return of all black inventions. You understand me? The benefit of the enslavement of Africans will never expire to America. And as a result of that, whatever we get as restitution for enslavement should likewise never expire. Money runs out. Money expires. And that's why money should not be on the list.
And that's why I always thought I was the only one, like reparations should be systemic. Just
Yes!
to fix the systems.
It needs to be systemic. Our enslavement gave birth to an entire system in the United States. And you're telling me that in exchange for this system, 400-500 years of white supremacy that we built, you're going to accept a one-time cash payout.
Right.
You mean to tell me you don't see the lopsided nature of that agreement? You're going to accept money for systemic benefits that came from your systemic exploitation? Mass incarceration ain't changed. Miseducation ain't changed. Gentrification ain't changed. Police genocide ain't changed. Access to wealth ain't changed. They give you that money. It addresses none of the 5 major problems black people have. So how is that money a solution? It's a trap. But you got thirsty, greedy Negroes who want some money, so they're pushing cash payment so they can get them a new Benz, a new white girl, and a new house in a white suburb.
And I always said that, like Kanye said, they made us love their wealth and hate ourselves. You know, we just so brainwashed by the materialism.
Absolutely.
That we think that's a form of compensation.
And the reason we're so brainwashed by the materialism is because white power stripped black people of their racial integrity, so much so that we feel like nobodies unless I got a Benz. We feel like nobodies unless I got a Gucci rag, some Yeezys on. I got to have gold. I got to have diamonds. What do you see every rapper with? A chain. And the most popular chain in the hip-hop community is a white Jesus piece on top of that. So we still won't get away from white Jesus, even in the hip-hop community. Why does every rapper gotta wear a chain with diamonds and gold? To remind them that they have worth. Because without that, they feel like nobody. The reason black people are so materialistic is because we're trying to compensate for self-hate with European materialism.
Yep, and I always said chains represent that we still slaves. Man, Dr. Umar, I
No
really
problem.
admire your passion, man.
Appreciate you,
I could
appreciate
do this all day with you, man, just taking in wisdom and
No problem.
learning and spreading the truth to other people who are outside the conscious community so everybody can wake up.
And let me say this to your parents out there, because I don't know who's going to watch this. Those of you who are raising children in America's public schools, be careful of a few things. I'm going to give you 3. Number 1, children under 7 should not be getting evaluated for special education. I want to be clear. If they're not deaf, if they're not blind, if they don't have a brain injury, if it's not a speech and language impairment, they should not be getting tested. 5 and 6 is too early for reading disability. 5 and 6 is too early for math disability. 5 and 6 is too early for ADHD and conduct disorder. It's too early for emotional disturbance and intellectual disabilities. Slow down on the evaluation. The reason the schools want you to evaluate your child is because they get paid for it. Every time a child goes into special education, the school gets paid. Let me say it one more time for hard-headed black parents. Every time your child goes into special ed, the school gets paid. So of course they want to be evaluated at 3, 4, and 5. Of course they want to be evaluated at 6, 7, and 8 because they want the money. It's the parent's job to say, my son is too young to be getting tested for ADHD, too young to be getting tested for a reading disability, and at the end of the day, you can't even prove it. You can't prove a reading disability. You cannot prove an ADHD. You can't prove an emotional disturbance. And these are the labels that they use on black boys in order to hyperactivate the school to prison pipeline. When I go speak into prisons, I always ask the inmates, if you were in special ed, raise your hand. And almost all the hands go up because special education is the school to prison pipeline. It is it. Number 2, don't get your children evaluated for ADHD. Do not get your child evaluated for ADHD. The drugs that they're giving out kill brain cells, will cause sexual dysfunction later in life, can make your son impotent, can also cause him to grow breasts because of the estrogen in a lot of the pills. There's a group of white men suing one of the drug companies right now because they develop breasts as a result of taking ADHD meds. These meds can cause tic disorders, schizophrenia, psychosis, sleeping terrors, organ failure. Why would you give your son a drug so he can sit still long enough to be miseducated by white women about Christopher Columbus? It doesn't make any sense. No ADHD, no medication, and if you get your son diagnosed or daughter and you stop giving them the medication or refuse it, guess what the school's going to do? They're going to call Child Protective Services on you. Child Protective Services is going to threaten to remove your children. And if you don't start giving them that medicine, they're going to take your children. And they're not just going to take the one child who was on the meds. They're going to take all your children. And they're going to give them to LGBTQ couples to raise. And I'm saying that on purpose because black children are more likely to end up with an LGBT foster parent than any other child. You know why? Because black people are least likely to adopt our own children. We don't adopt black kids. Black people don't adopt black kids. We are so selfish, we don't adopt black kids. So who needs children and can't make children? Lesbians and homosexuals. It's time to wake up and get serious. If any of your parents need to reach me, you got a question about your child, you can email me through the website, drumarjohnson.com. You can also text me directly. My phone number is public, 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. Please get somebody to review your child's psychological evaluation report before you sign it. A lot of those reports are set up and written intentionally to entrap our children and make people believe that they have irreversible learning, intellectual, and behavior problems. There's a war against black children, and the greatest asset to the white power structure is a black parent who is uneducated. Get educated about the school to prison pipeline before it's too late.
And don't you have a weekly call line?
Black parent teleconference. I haven't been doing it as consistently because we've been working on the school renovations. Okay. So that's why I tell parents to reach out to me. I still do pop-ups every once in a while on my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook. They can follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson, Facebook, Dr. Umar Ifatunde, Clubhouse Prince Ifatunde, TikTok Prince of Pan-Africanism, but they can get to all of those links on the website, drumarjohnson.com. I also have a on-demand video platform that has a lot of my new content. That's www.drumar.tv, DRUMAR.tv. But please donate to the school. Come to the grand opening. And if you live in Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Maryland, we will have buses coming from those states every day for our school. If you don't live in those states, help me find a school in your state where we can open up a school for black boys. The new revolution is psychological revolution because until we change the way our children think, we will not give birth to a new future.
And I want to close it, but you just kind of opened my mind to something because I was diagnosed with ADHD in 8th grade.
It was a scam.
The side effects were
So you took the meds. Which med did you have? You remember? Ritalin, Adderall. Okay.
And I would be up all night.
Yep.
My mind, though, was working like a machine. I was able to put stuff together, and I was building arenas out of cardboard and making sound speakers out of cups and stuff like. So my mind was working like a machine, but the side effects were terrible. I had no appetite. Impotent, like I couldn't. I had no type of sexual desire. So wow, that just opened my mind. But
the same drugs that they use to lock black men up, America incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. Highest incarceration rate. Most of them are black men for nonviolent drug-related offenses. So you mean to tell me selling drugs is that bad that you got to lock up black men for mandatory minimum sentences of 5, 10, 15, 20 years? But you will take that same crack, put it in a bottle, and call it Adderall or Ritalin or Concerta or Metadate or Cyclert and give it to black kids in public school. If drugs are too dangerous for adults to take them on the street, they have to be too dangerous for children to take them in the school. This is a chemical warfare against black boys. Destroy the mind so they can't even use it. This is a part of the criminalization and the destruction of black males through the psychiatric drug movement. And the psychiatric drug companies, all which publicly trade in New York City, they fund the American Psychiatric Association. They fund the American Psychological Association. They fund the teachers' unions. They fund the teachers' conferences. The drug companies are paying everybody to push their drugs. And now you got teachers in the classroom telling kids you got ADHD, telling mothers he needs medication, principals telling parents he can come back to school unless he get a prescription. But guess what? That's illegal. You cannot deny a child a right for education because the parent refuses medication. The only entity that can expel a child is the school board. Even a charter school. The charter school has a board. Only they can expel your child, and that's only after you had a full hearing in front of the board. So anytime a principal tells you he can't come back to school, they just broke the law. Nobody can deny a child school except the school board, and they better have a good reason for why they suspended that child. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Umar, man, I really thank you
No problem.
for joining us and sharing, the information, man.
No problem.
The most important part, I'm not really into the YouTube views and stuff like that. I just want to get the information out
Yes, sir.
to more qualified people.
Yes, sir.
And I like what Kanye said. I'm kind of like a gut guy. I sense things spiritually that are off, and I try to do research.
Yes, sir.
So I'm like the SWAT team officer that kick open the door.
Yes, sir.
But you come in with the accurate laser and
Yes, sir.
start laying stuff down
Yes,
with
sir.
the data, facts, and statistics. So that's why I want you on this platform. So thank you for taking
No problem.
time.
No
man.
problem.
Really appreciate
No
it.
problem, my brother. The honor was mine.
No
Yes,
problem.
sir.
If there's anything we can do for you, man, please let us
Will
know.
do. Thank you,
All right,
brother.
this is VCBEATS. This is 50.com. We out.